Yeah, so this past week I was feeling uh, I was feeling kind of behind at work, and because it's a new job, I was thinking that maybe people are gonna feel bad about me, that I'm gonna have a bad reputation, and that was making me uncomfortable and kind of about to give me anxiety. But then suddenly I caught up myself, and then I kind of realized or rationalized, I can't tell, but that the idea is that I don't even know whether I'm slow or not because I don't even know what they expect. So it's better to just like have a talk with like manager and people, just get a gauge on where I am, and then I can think about whether to speed up or do whatever. So after that, and then the second thing I did was I basically reminded myself that I'm okay with having bad reputation because I don't give a fuck of how people think about me. I want to do good at work, but if I'm doing my best and still I'm getting a bad reputation, then that's fine. So with that, anxiety went away,
Well, no, it
and
depends. No, well, but okay, we got to be careful here.
mm,
There's a very fine line between not caring at all and being immune to being driven by the, I don't know how to describe this. This is tricky.
uh, actually, I didn't say it right. I think what I meant was that whatever has been done is in the past. So now what I'll do is I will do my best. And now with that, if people think I have a bad reputation because I didn't work in the past, then that's fine. Because I am just looking forward because there's no yield in looking back at the past. Like other than learning from it, I can learn from it that okay, I might have to do better.
But isn't it
With
true? Go ahead.
but with that, basically that thing that okay, I'm gonna focus on the present, I'm gonna focus on the future, do what I can do, and then whatever happens, happens, kind of thing.
True, but like everything else, it has to take place in a context and it has to be balanced. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so one might need to attend to one's reputation at work because it's work and you're in a team, presumably. And
Mm-hmm.
if you have if people think that you're incapable, then maybe you need to do something to show that. I'm not saying that you're incapable, far from it, but people need to see that you're quite capable. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Something like that, or not. It all depends on the situation. When you're the new kid in a new school, sometimes not
Mm-hmm.
caring can be the best thing in the world. Other times, uh, they see there's a balance between when in Rome, do as the Romans, and when at a new
Mm-hmm.
job, you must learn how things are done there and
Mm-hmm.
adapt. And so none of this is all or none. I guess that's all I'm saying. And I'm not worried about it at all. Are you worried about it?
No, after that, I am not worried about it. I also had a chat with my manager and other
Oh,
people.
good. So you got
Uh,
feedback too.
yeah,
Oh,
to
God.
get
So
a
you're
gauge,
golden.
figure out, and also because my manager is my friend, so I can ask him how things are and those kind of things.
Okay.
Uh,
All right. Is there a
yeah.
question in there?
Yeah. So the question was, I went through like I got these thoughts, then I kind of figured out what I should do, and then I moved on from it. But is it so? So there are two ways to deal with it. I feel one is like rationalization, like mind game that I kind of psych myself into something with rationalization, and the second thing is
Give
I
an
do.
example of
So,
that.
like in this case, the dialogue that I went through, basically saying, like reminding myself that I will still do what I can, and beyond that, if things happen, then that's fine. Uh,
Yeah,
so
that's
that
not
kind of
rational.
dialogue.
That doesn't sound too much like rationalization. But
So
go
yeah, so
ahead.
I think I was just basically trying to guard myself against rationalization and just doing what's actually needed, or what's like what I should do without thinking, kind of thing.
Okay. As long as it's working good.
So I don't know, right? That if I'm using a wrong approach, it might come back to haunt me later,
Well,
and
doing
that's
your
why
best is not rationalization.
okay,
And trying to look at the situation clearly is not rationalization. That's trying to get clarity. Now,
okay,
if
got
you
it.
want to go further, you can observe yourself from a third person point of view.
Hmm. Hmm.
And if you want to go further than that, you can look at yourself from different points in time. Like perhaps your performance is great now, but compared to the 90s, it's shabby. Or compared to the 2030s, it'll be nothing. I mean, you could do all kinds of things to it, but you don't need to at this point. There's other things with higher yield. So good.
Okay, got it. So yeah, that was the first question. I have other.
Okay, question.
Yeah, the second one is from a video of Krishnamurti that I was watching. So in this one, he was saying, he was basically talking about action, the right action. And he was saying that the right action doesn't create conflicts, no regrets, and must be always correct. Uh, and then he was asking, is there an action independent of the future of time? And then the
Wait a
interviewer
minute. Is an
asks,
action independent of the future of time?
yeah, that's what he said. Is there an
Okay.
action that is independent of the future of time? And then the interviewer asks, how can one have that kind of action when dealing with the pressures of the times and the society? So, to that question, he answers, he basically says, uh, I don't admit pressure. I won't do anything under pressure, both intellectually and psychologically. I refuse to be under pressure. I don't mind starving and I don't mind having no job, but I refuse to be put in that position. So he's basically like kind of just discarding everything, uh, which is uh, which is like kind of creates the mental chatter or like the mental like stress, those kind of things.
Okay.
Is it practical?
So let me uh, before we go further into that question, let me provide folks with a little background. Krishnamurti uh, was born in Madras, India, and before he was 14, he may have been 13, maybe 12. He was essentially kidnapped by a man named Ledbetter for the purposes of becoming. There was a whole movement, the Theosophical movement in Britain, uh, run by a certain, I think it's Mary Besant. At any rate, they took this kid and his brother. I shouldn't say kidnapped. I think they went through the courts. He was a particularly good-looking kid, and I don't want to get into all of the details because it could get a little strange, especially by today's standards. But they took him to England and they gave him a first-class education, and with a strong emphasis on things of theosophy. They taught him English manners. They taught him how to present himself as a world leader. And he spent from 13, let's say, to 13 or 14 to age 35, thinking he was the new leader of the world, the new God, the new Messiah. I mean, crazy stuff. And to his credit, he denounced the people that the organization. It was called the Order of the Star. This is actually an important part of Western history. I think it's the Order of the Star. And he was the Messiah and the leader, and people were literally worshiping him. I mean, in great numbers. And at age 35, well, what happened was his brother died, and he had a profound Satori experience. The first major one that I know of that he describes, because that's all he had was his brother, right? That's the only thing that connected him to his home. He hadn't seen his parents. It was devastating for him. They were very, very close, and then he'd been promised that the masters were going to watch after his brother and he wasn't going to die or something like that. And so when his brother did die, and they weren't together at the time, it devastated Krishnamurti. So, to his immortal credit, in his mid 30s or something like that, he said, the hell with all this. I'm not going to have this circus around me. These people are, that this is not the way to go. And he became allergic to the idea of authority. But he'd already spent 15 years or so just immersed in theosophy with all of its Hindu roots and all of its other stuff thrown in. So you can't really erase that many years of bathing in that stuff. And so he dissolved the Order of the Star, the Theosophical movement, which was a pretty radical thing to do. But for the rest of his life, I don't think he ever touched money. He never had a job except, to give talks now and then. Actually, not that frequently. I think he saw people privately, and from that he could see the misery of people and their families, and he got a pretty... there's a word other than cynical, let's say jaded view of family life in Britain and America and among the wealthy of the time. He went to the best tailors and was very interested in nice cars. And so he lived his life this way, for the most part celibate, for all we know. I'm not sure that he ever married, although he did have one relationship, which I won't go into. But the point is that he was deeply saturated with all of these teachings, and he never had to deal with money, and he never had to apply for a job. I'm not saying he was lucky. I mean, who would want that to happen to their child or to them? To be taken away from your home and put on a pedestal to be worshipped. So he rejected all that, and he continued his work, and he taught and taught and taught for his whole lifetime. But with regard to practical matters of getting a job, keeping a job, and things like that, I'm not sure he would be the right person to turn to, just like I wouldn't turn to a Buddhist monk for advice about sexual issues. Okay, so now let's go back. Thank you for letting me do that. Just a little brief history on Krishnamurti. A brilliant man, deeply, deeply, deeply saturated with the Vedas and everything else before, and then the Theosophists, and God knows what those people had included or excluded. But handling money, getting a job, getting fired, the slings and arrows of getting along in the world like a normal person is not something that he had to. When I say normal person, I mean someone who has to get a job, someone who has to pay for their gasoline or their family, their food, things like that. He's just never had to do that. Okay, now can we get the question?
Yeah. So my question was that when I heard that, it felt very liberating, and also like remember
When you
how
heard what?
till
Remind me. When you heard what?
when he said that I don't admit pressure, I won't do anything under pressure, both intellectually and psychologically.
Yeah, he could
I
afford
refuse
that. Yeah, he could do that.
to be under pressure. I don't mind starving, and I don't mind having no job, but I refuse to be put in that position. So when I heard that, it felt very liberating, and it reminded me of the thing that I stopped this year. So like until last year, I was a lot into like chasing women, right? I used to talk to you about that, but then last year I stopped doing that, and then from that, a lot of time is got freed up, and even the mind chatter kind of disappeared. Like a lot of like mind got freed a lot. So anything that is unnecessary or not needed, I don't see why. Like if someone needs money, like someone like need to have a job, then yeah, this is not practical. But for me, right, I can go back to India, and I don't have to do a job. I can just do stuff, or maybe if a need arises, then I can do a job. So with that idea, this felt very liberating that I could be in a position to just do that. Uh, but
Now be careful
but
with that.
yeah.
It is very liberating to say, I will accept no pressure. I will accept no work. I will, even if I starve to death, I'm not going to work. Well, okay, that's your choice, but that's not very good advice for other people, people that have others to care about.
Mhm.
And I'm sure it was more nuanced than that, but he can get very, very English British, kind of rigid sometimes, and in his manners is all I'm saying. But let's focus on the places where Krishnamurti is a genius in articulating what he learned, right?
Mhm.
And okay, he's admittedly weak, I think, when it comes to practical advice about job hunting and money management.
Mhm.
So let's focus on the other places where he's strong. Now, so when you look for enlightened people, you don't look for this saint that kind of walks 6 inches off the ground and is perfect in
Mhm.
every way. You looked for enlightened qualities in a person.
Mhm.
That's all you need, right? You don't. The other thing is more of an infantile fantasy, something like that. So you look for enlightened qualities, and then you try and absorb them into yourself. So let's move on to the question. What's the question?
Yeah. So I get that
And
that
also,
there
where
might
does he
be
say
some.
this? Where does he say that? That's not on a videotape I put out.
Sorry.
That's not on a videotape that I published on my channel.
Yeah, it was some other video that you
Okay, did you read the
recommended
ones?
to
Did
me
you
from
listen to the ones on the
Krishnamurti.
channel?
Sorry.
Did you listen to the ones on the channel, on the
O-
Matrix of Mind channel?
Okay.
Those are the ones that are for discussion and teaching. Because he may have said something random to somebody in particular. He could get angry too. And so maybe he was saying something. So I have no idea where or whom he said that to. And so it makes it very difficult to comment on.
So now I want to ask the a more relevant question on that.
Okay, good.
Uh,
Question.
yeah. So which is so far from the materials that I have read and like listened to, it seems having a quiet mind is very important in this endeavor. And if I can get rid of unnecessary stuff, it will help me in that go in that direction. So right.
What direction?
So like so let's look at like the examples of the past. So like
No, no, no.
centuries
Let's be
ago.
here in the present right now.
Okay. So for example, like for me, I can cut out unnecessary stuff that I do, which is like a job that I don't really care about, or 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 like living in the US where it's more expensive to live in the US. Uh, I can cut that out.
Sure. If you can afford it, do it as you please.
Uh, and then, but the thing I wanted to bring up was like in all the religions there was always been have been a tradition where people will go asking for alms, like they will go become fakir and just like go and be a wanderer. And so what was the value in that, becoming poor and just like being asking for alms while working on getting enlightened?
Oftentimes, it was making the best of a bad situation. You said, what is the advantage? You're presuming there is an advantage, aren't you?
I am presuming because all of the religions were doing that, so there might be something of value
There might
in
be, or
there.
it might just be a practical matter. There's excess males, there's not enough jobs, so you need some way to organize these young men. There's not enough money, the economy's not good. So you organize them into a group and they go and they beg. This romanticization of the begging bowl, I mean, in certain cultures, in the Far East, I think that's, there may be some credence to that, but wouldn't it be better if a grown man provides for his own food and doesn't beg it from other people, unless there's a little excess food, or an excess money, or it makes people feel better. But I don't think the benefit accrues to the monk, to the mendicant. Do you? Can you give me an example from the last, I don't know, 800 years?
I mean, I thought about it. I could find only, so there were many cons, but there were some pros too
All right, let's
to
hear the
this kind.
pros to quitting your job and getting a begging bowl and walking around Mumbai with a bowl and see what happens. So let's hear it. What are the benefits?
The benefits are to basically is like less things to worry about.
You just have
No
to worry about your
job. If I,
food every day. You have to worry about the
I mean,
weather.
but then if with that, if I get food, then that's fine. If I don't get food, then that's fine. And that also detaches me from worrying about health because I am basically totally surrendering to a higher power because my
Which
health
higher
is in this
power? What?
God.
Why would God want you to become helpless and starve to death? What God would want that for you?
If it was a certainty
Are we
that
talking hypotheticals or are we talking real right here, right now?
no, I was talking about the pros that I was able to think of
Okay,
in this
so what the
situation.
pros, you think it would please God?
No, not please God. It will basically reduce my pressures, and then I will be in a better mental state to
It will just
pursue.
swap the pressures you have now for other pressures.
That was one of the
People
cons.
freeze to death, right? They find them on the side of the road.
Yeah, that was one
Then
of the
it's a pain in the
cons.
ass for
That
everybody else because they have to feed this bum who's on the side of the road, right? And he needs food. And there's not enough for their children. But they don't want to see you die there, so they throw you some food that they need for someone else. Why wouldn't you just work for your food? I don't understand. Help me understand what the virtue is in this poverty that you're espousing right now.
I don't know if I'm espousing. I'm just mentioning the pros that I thought, which is
Well,
like
mention the
what
cons.
Krishnamurti.
Every time you mention a pro, mention the con, please, so I don't have to do it. Makes me seem like a bad guy.
Okay. So the thing that Krishnamurti said that I refuse to be under pressure. So
Who did he
that
say
pressure
that
was
to?
to
Did he
the
say that to
interviewer
his attorney?
to the interviewer who was a reporter who was asking him questions.
Well, maybe he was angry with him. No, I'm
Maybe.
serious.
Yeah. And the con, of course, is I will be dependent on other people, and that is a bad
You're
thing in
already
itself.
dependent on other people. But let's keep going. What's the purpose of this exercise?
The purpose, so the question was basically, was there any benefit to be like that because it has been done in the past
Be like
in all the
who?
religions?
Krishnamurti, who has so much money he doesn't have to touch it? And he can
No,
say, I
no,
don't refuse to be under pressure and I refuse to do this or that because frankly, I don't touch money. I
no.
don't
Be
have to. I've
like
got people giving me money my whole life. And then I have other people managing the money. That's a very peculiar circumstances. Most of us don't have lives like that where we grow up as, the world leader and then we're funded by other people. We don't have to touch any of that stuff. That's very, very peculiar. That's a very unusual circumstance. But the lesson here is that you must always look at the whole situation. So I don't know who he said that to, right?
mhm, mhm.
He could have been entering a steam bath and said, I refuse to be under pressure. I mean, who knows? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that the yield in that is going to be limited. Why don't we be here now? Now, do
Mhm.
you refuse to be under pressure?
I mean, I think I still want to be in a position to make money and make livelihood.
Okay, so good. Is there a question in there?
No, the question that I already asked and you already answered by
Okay.
yes. So
All
move
right. I
on.
hope I did. I don't know. But okay. All right. Next question.
The second one is where he was talking about meditation. So interviewer was basically saying that people do meditation and then they to live their life peacefully. So Krishnamurti objected to that, and he said, that unless there is freedom from mundane desires, fears, meditation is meaningless. Interviewer was stressing to use meditation to uh, go ahead.
I don't know who he's talking to. I don't know the context. I don't know how old he is at the time. I don't know how big the audience is. I don't know if he's talking to one person or to 200. I don't know if he's talking to Americans or to Indians. I have no context. And so that's why you can't just go randomly on the internet and profit, right? But we can keep going. But just so you know, it's difficult when you're missing most of the picture and you're
So
just selecting these little things. Why don't you just speak for yourself now? Just speak for yourself.
I can
Leave Krishnamurti out of it. Speak for yourself. And there's more yield. Otherwise, we're gossiping, right?
okay, okay,
And
okay. I
warriors don't
can then
gossip.
okay, I can phrase the question in a different way.
Please do.
Uh, so basically, I can meditate and then reach a more relaxed state uh, to function in the world, or I can be relaxed upfront with being free from these like mundane desires, fears, and all those things, and then do the meditation stuff after that. Uh, so I guess there's no question in if I take Krishnamurti out, then I don't see a question in here. So I think we can move on.
Okay. I'm seeing something, though, that might be useful. Keep going. Keep going.
Uh, no, you can go ahead and say what you wanted to say.
Do you know what Zen sickness is?
Zen sickness? No.
All right. Well, that's probably something we'll be looking into soon. Okay? Don't worry about it. Just make a little note in your mind. Zen sickness. Okay, keep going. Next question.
Cool. But the next question is a different one. So basically, this is about me feeling I have a lack of compassion. I will give the context. So the context is that for the past few years, I have been planning and preparing for the upcoming economic depression. And based on whatever situation is coming up, I feel we are very close. So, and with that, I'm taking steps like, and also like I can see ways to make more money. And this makes me feel like that I'm feeling excited about being richer, making money by doing things in this scenario when so many people are going to be suffering, including me. Because if there's a war, then everyone suffers, not just other people. But still, I feel excited about this situation rather than feeling concerned or worried about it. So, so because of that, I feel that am I missing compassion, even though the understanding is there that
It's
will
what you're going to
affect
do,
everyone.
going to grow the economy.
No, I mean, I'm not gonna, I'm just a very small player for that. So I don't think I'm gonna be responsible for growing up the whole economy.
So, what are you going to do with your newfound riches?
With the newfound riches, I haven't thought about
Your
it.
eggs before they're hatched.
It's
Go.
just the idea is exciting and that's it.
So, you're just spinning off into fantasies about the future, right?
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
no yield there for anybody.
yeah. So I get that, and I know that is kind of useless.
Okay, so
But
normally people that are involved in new endeavors realize that what they're doing is they're growing the economy. They're making more, and so there's more for everyone eventually. There's more food. There's more money. There's more of everything. So that's why you want the economy to grow. And with AIs and robotics, there's it's been said that there need not be any limits on the size of our economy. In other words, we will have everything we want physically because of the nature of a growing economy, truly growing economy, rapidly growing economy. I think what you're asking is, am I uncompassionate because I want to get rich? Is that the
no,
question?
no, no.
Well, what is
That's
the
not what I'm.
question? What's the
So the
question?
question is that even in this upcoming difficult situation, I still don't feel sad uh, for the things that are gonna happen.
Why would you be
Uh,
fantasizing about the future one way or the other about how you're going to feel? You have no idea.
yeah.
You have no idea, so why are we fantasizing about nothing? So you should sit up straight too, my sir, my friend. There we go.
Hmm. Hmm. So, so my main question was how can I cultivate more compassion?
So what did all the other stuff have to do with that?
So I was giving the context on how I arrived at that.
So
I think
you
today
want to
we
know
are.
how you okay? Stop fantasizing about the future. That's the first thing, and look around you. That's number one. Number two, exchanging self for others. In other words, go outside, walk down the street in California. It shouldn't be hard, and find people who are less fortunate than you. And then exchange yourself for them. Imagine that it's you there, and then imagine it's you walking by, and then imagine it's you that's doing this or that, whatever. Just exchange yourself for other. There's books on this in the Buddhist tradition. And then three would be to increase your insight, because where do you stop and they begin? And number four is just wait. You're going to suffer soon, and with that you will grow in compassion for others. Number five would be just increase your information base, and don't be so insulated in a one little tiny world where you're relatively protected, and you don't have to go out and see the ugliness, the poverty, the spiritual poverty, the physical poverty, the disease, and the despair, and children who are, when I say children, I mean kids in their teens and their 20s or 30s who are lost in this world and suffering. Or go to sit in the waiting room of a psychiatric clinic. Does that answer your question? And then once you've done those, then we could talk about what's next.
Yeah, that answers the question.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that answers the question.
Okay,
Yes.
there's a lot more. There's a lot more. Those are some of the first ones. Uh, Introductory Buddhist texts, for example, Chagdud, Tuku Chagdud, my teacher Chagdud, has a book called Gates to Buddhist Practice. That might help. Pema Chodron might help. But don't worry, you'll be on the other side, and it won't be long. Not okay. Krishnamurti, who suffered horribly in his life, you can feel it, and he talks about it: the loneliness, the isolation, and the you don't have to worry about suffering. It'll come. And if you want compassion, then suffering is usually the quickest way there. But right now, you're protecting yourself from it, and you're getting casual and somewhat flippant and ungrateful for what you have. But life has a way. The way has a way of setting everyone straight. Reality will teach you, if nothing else. Or someone in your family will get ill and die. I mean, a lack of compassion only comes from not being connected to oneself, truly. Unless one is diseased and a psychopath. But the rest of us, it's just normal. So get out in the world. I would say that's the first thing. And then if you really want, you do need it, there's two wings that you must have: compassion and wisdom, insight and compassion. Compassion just comes from insight. So you need more insight also. But I suggest you do like the Buddha did when he left his little, circle, protected little palace, and he walked out in the world, and he saw the old people and the sick people and the people that were suffering, and he said, "What the hell is this?" Because so obviously you just need to see more of the world, I think, and then contemplate it. All right.
Mm-hmm.
But it's vitally important, because even let's say you gain the world, but you have no compassion. Now what are you going to do?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next
Yeah.
question.
Is everything all right?
Pardon me?
I,
I'm worried about
is
you.
everything? Mm. In what sense?
Learn more about Zen sickness, and then we can talk.
Okay, got it. Okay. Uh, the next question I had was in your last video, you guys were talking about daemon, uh, and one of the things that was said was the voice from the inside could be a daemon. From what I have observed with me is over the years is I do get a voice from inside, but a lot of times that voice is coming from conditioning rather than actually an inner voice. So I don't know that I can trust that voice, or is that actually a demon, or just something else, or like just like conditioning or thoughts coming out.
For you, I recommend forgetting about daemons and forgetting about all that kind of stuff. You need to find your own heart.
Okay.
Forget about daemons, and remember, different teachings are for different people at different levels and different stages, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, got it.
Some people need medicine,
Uh,
some people need fresh water, right?
mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Then the next question I had was I was thinking about greed too, and and so like let me take an example. Let's say an example of like food, or like something that I know is bad for me, uh, but still because it gives me pleasure, I still feel like doing it, and I have to stop myself. If for someone who has awakened, or who is enlightened, they will still feel the pleasure, right? And because
Why
of
are we
that,
talking about hypotheticals? Why don't we talk about something that has to do with real reality? Okay. I mean, if you talk about hypotheticals, which you've done quite a bit, then you get nowhere. How's your practice going now, or what's going on with you now? There's a piece of candy, you want to eat it, and you struggle with it, right? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, I was struggling with it until like a few weeks ago.
So what does it have to do
uh,
with an enlightened person? What does that have to do with an enlightened person?
I mean, I think after listening to the video yesterday, I had some questions on that, so that's why
What about
I was
before the
asking.
video yesterday? What questions about you? Right. Let's go. Let's get to some meat here.
Mhm.
All right. What's the question?
So the question is, so like the thing that I asked last week, right? That when I do the practice, do the meditation, and I feel and I focus on I do the turning the light around, and I focus on the space, and also now I feel that kind of I amness kind of thing around me. It just like that's it. Like nothing more is going on with that, and I don't know if I'm doing it right,
No, you're not.
or I'm.
You said there's this I amness around me. What's the me?
So because I perceive it,
Who perceives it?
So I can recollect a memory of it, right?
Who
I
can
can,
recollect the memory of it?
I mean, the small self, uh,
What is this
or the
small
me.
self?
I mean, on, like actually, I don't know, right? I don't know the
Okay, well
I
then
or the
find
me.
out, please. Find out so we can discuss it, because now you're just spinning, you're spinning cotton in the clouds. What I mean, you say this thing that I don't know what is having these memories or having these experiences and this and that. Well, okay, well, we need to know what that is, right?
Hmm.
From many points of view.
Hmm.
The next question. Next question.
That that's pretty much what I had.
All right. Any other questions before we stop?
Mm. I mean, I have the questions about the practice,
Well,
and
please
then
go to those. That's what we should start with. Go ahead. What are those?
but then you said I'm not doing it right. But then
Did I hurt your feelings?
no, no, no.
Are you
So
sure?
then what? Yeah, what else I can do? It's the same thing, right? That last week also.
Well, if you don't know
Uh,
who you are and you ask questions about that person, I can either ratchet it down, which I'm happy to do, or you need to figure that out or ask questions about that. First things first. You can't fly before you can run.
mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So in my experience, when I look into that I who is feeling those things or experiencing those things,
Mm-hmm.
I always end up at that sensation. Like I don't, sensation is the wrong word, but I always end up at that I amness kind of feeling. And I'm not able to go deeper into that.
All right. Go to the Naqshbandi. There's a Naqshbandi meditation somewhere in the videos or on my website.
Yeah.
Use
EFT.
that and see if that helps.
Okay.
But you got to get more. You can't be sloppy with this stuff, my friend. You can't get
Hmm.
sloppy. You can't get overconfident, and you can't make assumptions that that everything's going the way you perceive it's going. The Zen people understand this the best, and they describe it the best. The others, they keep it to themselves, but the Zen folks have, some of it's been published, so that should help quite a bit.
Hmm. Okay.
So the diagnosis is Zen sickness, and the treatment is to be determined.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Anything else
Right.
before we stop?
No, I'll read up on Zen sickness and what it is, unless you can tell or you want to tell. But if not, then that's fine. I can read up.
I happen to have this book right here,
Hmm.
and it happens to have a very nice section on this. Listen carefully. Maybe you want to take some notes. You ready?
Yeah.
The three kinds of sickness of the spiritual body are descriptively termed, quote, leaving before arriving, comma, attachment after arriving, comma, and penetration with no reliable basis. Okay?
Hmm.
So that's a good place to start.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
All right, take good care.
You too. Thank you.